Well, after spending the week in Fredericton, about 1,000 chiefs and members from First Nations all across this country are heading home tonight. Not before sending a pretty clear message to the politicians, though, ahead of the fall election that the Indigenous vote carries clout. CTV's Laura Brown from the AFN Assembly.
I attended residential school for 11 years. I was sexually abused, physically abused.
From a First Nation community in Saskatchewan, Ted Quewezance says he's working on his own reconciliation, telling a bit of his story in front of hundreds of chiefs today.
There's a lot of our survivors that are in pain, that are hurting.
He met with Indigenous Services Minister Seamus O'Regan yesterday and feels optimistic O'Regan listened.
He personally said he's going to come out to our community and look around and deal with the perpetual crisis that we're in.
Not everyone is walking away from these meetings with the same optimism.
And it was really disappointing to see that none of the other federal leaders felt it was important. And also the current, Justin Trudeau, that he didn't show up either to address the chiefs. This is our last assembly before the federal election.
Chief Judy Wilson says while she was here this week, she's been thinking about those searching for their missing loved ones back home.
Doreen, Jack, a whole family that went missing. Regional Chief TG spoke to it, and the chief from that region spoke to it. The search was happening this week.
She says she feels the Assembly heard her calls for more action on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but politicians still haven't.
In the world of politics, numbers count. And when the Assembly of First Nations takes a position, to some extent, they are speaking for a wide range of communities across the country.
Wayne Mackay says while it's always important for Indigenous voices to be heard, it may be even more so with this election.
It may be a fairly close election, potentially, at least on the polls between Conservatives and the Liberals and maybe others. Also, potentially election where the Green may have a significant impact for the first time. So I think it's a particularly important one for the Aboriginal or Indigenous voice to be heard.
And Steve, so we are now 3 months away from that federal election, and so many of the chiefs and delegates here say they will be taking the issues that were discussed and putting a lot of pressure on their local candidates once they return home. Steve.
We'll have some questions for AFN Regional Chief Roger Augustine coming up. Laura, thank you. CTV's Laura Brown in Fredericton.